insurgency in states which are many who call it India's heart of darkness. Now, how does India, it's often been linked to lack of development. So how does India go about addressing it?
It's a very important question. I talked about scheduled tribes, and there is some significant level of overlap geographically between that problem and the problem you referred to. It's not one-on-one, but people see them as significantly linked. We have a lot of experience working in other hearts of darkness. The ultimate heart of darkness, of course, is the Congo, where I was the country manager myself, so I have a little bit of experience. There's two things. So first of all, if you want to fight insurgency, then you need to increase the credibility of government. So how do you build the credibility of government in a remote area? You need to create a situation where the people perceive that the government is capable to give them the basic things that they most want. Now, what do they want most? Security and connectivity, as in roads. I mean, they want internet also, but roads is really the starting point. And then they want some level of local infrastructure, where typically community-driven development programs can be quite effective. So I think as first steps, I would advocate aggressively rolling out PMGSY type programs in those areas and making sure that they actually work. The road is the number one need for anybody who doesn't have a road anyway. We have seen ourselves that our livelihoods programs have been particularly successful in tribal areas, so that's a plus. So we could work on that more aggressively with the Ministry of Rural Development. And then eventually, there's issues about how represented people feel in politics. I think in a democracy, that's actually, contradictorily, it's more difficult in a democracy than if you could create a democracy, right? Because politics is what it is, and it's not so easy to influence, because the people who run are the people who run, and the patterns that are there are typically the patterns that are there. Where some other countries have made a lot of progress, and I've heard some examples in India, is because the other element I mentioned is security. People want to be safe. So what can be remarkably successful is to recruit people of the most adversarial communities in jobs that provide security. It's actually one of the biggest secrets of the governor of Lagos. That's not a tribal issue, of course, but the famous area boys who destabilized the whole city are now the ones who enforce the traffic rules. They were, of course, properly trained, and there's patterns in the Congo itself where people from communities who felt most disaffected, you give them a government job, you give them a uniform, and you give them a responsibility for security. It actually completely changes the perception of the entire family on what the state represents for them. I don't know whether that can work in India, but it's worked really well in other areas. So those are just some thoughts, but the truth is, I believe that the thinking on development in India should really focus on this problem, because this is the problem we're going to be left with before poverty is eliminated in India, and we're not so far from eliminating poverty. It's closer than we think, but solving this problem is still quite far.